The GOP is freaking out and melting down over President Joe Biden's decision to exit the 2024 presidential race. House Speaker Mike Johnson called on Biden to vacate the presidency immediately. He wrote on X, having invalidated the votes of more than 14 million Americans who selected Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee for president, the self-proclaimed party of democracy has proven exactly the opposite. If Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he is not fit to serve as president. He must resign. The office immediately, November 5th, cannot arrive soon enough.
Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, posted, "Joe Biden has been the worst president in my lifetime, and Kamala Harris has been right there with him every step of the way over the last 4 years. She co-signed Biden's open border and green scam policies that drove up the cost of housing and groceries. She owns all of these failures, and she lied for nearly 4 years about Biden's mental capacity, saddling the nation with a president who can't do the job. President Trump and I are ready to save America. Whoever's at the top of the Democratic ticket, bring it on." Now, with Biden out of the race, Democrats who made excuses for their candidate's advanced age now deploying that argument against Donald Trump. Watch.
Right now, Kamala Harris has her work cut out for her. She's running against the oldest nominee for president of the United States in American history. And so when you have this type of change election, when you have this type of generational divide that you have, it's a question of whether or not you want to go backwards with Donald Trump or forward with Kamala Harris. I mean, the man is nearly 80 years old. And so the question is, can he serve another 4 years? I'm not sure he can.
Former Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller went on a tirade on Fox News last night over Biden's decision to drop out.
They held a primary. People, they had ballots. They filled out circles. They went to the voting booths. They spent money on advertisements. And as President Trump said, the Republican Party spent tens of millions of dollars running against Joe Biden. Now they just woke up one morning and said, never mind, we're canceling the entire primary. We're getting rid of our candidate, and we're pretending the election has never even happened, and we're going to let donors handpick a new nominee. They're publicly admitting that they are an oligarchy. They are not running a democracy. They are not running a representative republic. This is an oligarchy controlled by business interests, and the Democratic Convention is the private corporation that represents those business interests. This is as full frontal an attack on American democracy as we've ever seen in the history of America's major political parties.
That's absolutely hilarious from Stephen Miller. If they cared about democracy, they would care that there wasn't an actual primary in the first place, but they don't care about democracy. If they cared about business interests dominating electoral politics, they would care that Peter Thiel donated the most amount of money of any individual Senate donation to a Senate campaign, with $15 million to J.D. Vance. They're beholden to Silicon Valley. It's just very hypocritical.
I mean, there are a lot of big business interests, yes, supporting the Republican candidates, supporting the Democratic candidates. Of course, what would have been the point of holding a primary process if they were just going to say, actually, we don't want Joe Biden to be the candidate anymore at the last minute? So I do think there's something to this idea that the Democratic process has been exposed as an utter sham in terms of the Democratic Party's decision-making for who their candidate is going to be. But I want to comment on this argument that a lot of Republicans are making right now. I saw Josh Hawley say it, Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in addition to, most prominently, House Speaker Mike Johnson, that, look, if Joe Biden is not running for re-election because he's not mentally capable, he doesn't have the mental acuity to be president anymore, he's too old, he's not well, he can't run for president, then shouldn't he stop being the president right now? Shouldn't he resign? I mean, if it's a demanding job, it's the most demanding job on the face of the earth to be president, and we know why he's getting out of the race. His statement didn't specifically cite health reasons or anything. He just said it's not in the best interest of my party and the country for me to continue running for re-election. I don't know if that's because of what we saw in the debate and what we've seen in his subsequent interviews, that he no longer appears all there, that he can't speak effectively, that age has caught up with him, he can't run for re-election. I think it is not at all out of the question to wonder, well, why shouldn't he just resign now?
Don't you think it's funny that Mike Johnson's criticizing Biden for that? Criticizing him for that?
Why?
And entertaining the idea of introducing a 25th Amendment motion to get him out of office because he's too old, and their candidate's 1 year younger. Biden's 81, Trump's 80. I think Biden dropping out is because 3 years from now he can't serve. So why would he run now? Let the democratic process, which is the delegates go to the convention and they vote for the nominee. This is how it happens year over year. If they cared about the democratic integrity of the big D Democratic Party process, they would have cared in 2016. They did not.
It's not that years from now he might no longer be capable. It's that right now we have concerns about his capability. And
it's fine. Have him
and also
drop
they
out.
talked about with Trump. They talked about this all the time. MSNBC and CNN did constant segments about invoking the 25th Amendment, about how he's unfit for office because of a variety of reasons. Like they have been talking about Trump as crazy and out of it through his entire presidency. Now we have a president who is actually, to the kind of letter of the law, in the understanding of that amendment, not seemingly physically capable. Again, that's why the concerns. That's why they're swapping him out. And you're just some crazy right-wing person if you want to have a conversation about whether he should continue to be the president. That makes no sense to me. Obviously, if he can't be the candidate anymore, I mean, look, you can try to split this baby by saying, well, he has enough resolve or energy to be the president, but also not simultaneously run or campaign. I guess they could make that argument. I haven't actually heard anyone in Democratic circles say that because I think they know it's not going to be convincing. But he's fine now, but we don't know about 4 years from now. If that were the case, he would just still be seeking re-election. It's the case that he's not capable now, and thus I don't understand how they can make the argument that he should still be president, except that he only has a couple months left. I mean, it's not like there's nothing happening in the world that we need a president to be responsive to. We have ongoing war in Russia and Ukraine. Ongoing war, Israel versus Hamas, tensions with China. There's a lot happening right now. His rival Donald Trump was almost just assassinated. We need somebody who's all there, who's fit, who's ready, who's cognitively capable, and it's clear no one thinks that's the case with Joe Biden. But he's going to continue being president until next January. Just 'cause? Okay.
I agree with you. When we saw the debates on here on this show, I said, I'm worried that he's commander-in-chief today.
Yeah.
What I don't get about Mike Johnson is Donald Trump, who will be 80 his second year in term, is currently 78. He's going to be 79 when inaugurated, and at the end of his first year, he will be 80 years old. So I have a problem with Mike Johnson criticizing Biden for his age, saying he's unfit to serve. And I get that people age differently. That is true. But Donald Trump has shown clear demonstrations of cognitive decline as well, and I think we need someone younger in office. And so it's not that Johnson's wrong in saying we can't have a guy like Biden as president. I agree. The problem is that they don't keep that same energy when it's their guy.
Yeah, look, it's not literally the age. I mean, Bernie Sanders is. I always have to double check and verify these things. He's a year older than Joe Biden, and I don't agree with Bernie Sanders' policies, and I don't want him to be president. But I don't have the kind of questions I have about him are not at all in terms of is he physically or mentally capable of doing the job. He has aged differently than Joe Biden, despite being older than Joe Biden. He is clearly capable of being president in a way that I think Joe Biden is not. Similarly with Trump, he I don't think has shown signs of his aging nearly as much. It's not even close. Maybe there's a little bit. Frankly, he didn't look that different at the end of his presidency as he did at the beginning. If you see those portraits over how being president ages you, famously, Lincoln looks about 50 years older from the beginning and end of his term. But if you look at George W. Bush, it was the same way. Barack Obama was the same way. He grayed considerably. It's an aging you kind of job. Donald Trump doesn't look like he aged that much, not nearly to the extent that Joe Biden did. So, look, Republicans could have done better with a different candidate as well, I think. Nikki Haley in the polling, for instance, was doing better versus Joe Biden than Donald Trump was. She tried to make a lot of that when she was running. But at the end of the day, Republicans decisively said, no, we want Donald Trump as our candidate. And so Donald Trump is the candidate. Democrats also said they weren't given much of a choice, to be clear. We complained about the process. There should have been actual debates. There should have been a competitive primary. But the voters said, yeah, we're going to have Joe Biden. And now Democratic elite said, nope, you're going to get somebody else. You're going to get Kamala Harris. So
I think in the spirit of democracy, Stephen Miller should change the attention of his politics to, if he doesn't like delegates voting, get rid of the Electoral College. Let's do real democracy. Let's do a popular vote for president. That would be really fun for everyone, except that Republicans wouldn't win an election for the next 20 years. They would have to entirely create a new party to replace their
No. They run to win. You run to win under the current system. If you change the system, they would run different campaigns. Right now, Republicans spend no money, for instance, campaigning in California. There's millions of Republicans in California, but Republicans are not after their votes because their votes don't matter, because they're not going to win the state of California, and so the millions of Republicans voting there are not worth energizing or getting out, because the electoral votes in California are going to the Democratic category no matter what they do. Their strategy, the Republican strategy, is narrowly focused on winning the swing Midwestern states. Doesn't matter how much you run up the scoreboard in the popular vote. Now, you're right. If the system was different, I'm fine with having a different system for picking the president. Then they would run a very different campaign. I don't think you can just say, oh, Republicans couldn't win the popular vote. I mean, Donald Trump was ahead of Joe Biden. Now we got to get some polling versus Kamala Harris. I think he was ahead of Joe Biden in like the popular vote polling for the last several weeks. So it's true that if you had an entirely different system in the last couple of elections, Democrats would have won versus Republicans. But that doesn't actually tell you anything, because the campaigns would have been different.
Well, I still stand by what I said. No matter how hard they campaign, I don't think they're ever going to get enough people to win a popular vote nationally in the United States. But Kamala might not win either if she can't beat these joy allegations. They seem to have nothing. They're melting down. They're coming after her because she's laughing. People are posting compilation clips of her laughing. Donald Trump has made this his main thing about her. And I think that just goes to show they're melting down because they're scared they're going to actually have to do politics and run a campaign. And I don't think they're confident in their ability to do so, which is why they're in chaos right now.
I don't think they're that much in chaos. I think they're resetting. They were prepared to run against Joe Biden, although I'm sure they were reading the same tea leaves as everyone else, and I'm sure Donald Trump was getting daily updates that it's looking more and more likely like Joe Biden is actually going to drop out. I think they're ready to go against Kamala Harris. We'll find out, and it's certainly a more interesting race now. More interesting for us in the media to talk about, at the very least, which we will continue doing all day and all week and all month, forever. More Rising right after this.